Then we get into the sexual stages of personality development. We have erogenous zones. I'm sure you've all heard of that before, and there's actually a book. It's been out for quite a while, probably before you all were born, called Your Erogenous Zone. This is parts of the body that have strong pleasure-giving qualities at particular stages of development. Okay, adult personality is determined by the way conflicts are resolved between these early sources of pleasure and demands of reality. As you're going through these different stages, which we'll get into, the psychosexual stages, how you resolve the conflicts, or how you are raised and deal with situations as you're going through these different stages, helps develop your adult personality. Starting off here at the oral stage, the first 18 months that you are alive, pleasure centers around the mouth, excuse me, chewing, sucking, biting, reduce tension. So that's why you see a lot of the babies, infants sucking on whatever those things are called, binky or something like that. The anal stage is roughly around 18 to 36 months, where the pleasure centers around the anus and urethra and their functions. This is when toilet training happens, and when you go to the bathroom and potty training and all that kind of stuff, and your mom and dad or whoever your caregiver is saying, "Yay, good job, you did it," and praising you and all that kind of stuff. You're getting pleasure around that because you're getting positive rewards and positive feedback for doing that type of stuff. So that's where this pleasure stage comes from. The phallic stage, from 3 to 6 years of age, pleasure focuses on your genitals. You discover that self-stimulation is enjoyable. If you ever see little kids touching themselves and all that type of stuff, that's just them discovering that they have these genitals and that they enjoy touching it, and it's just the phallic stage that they go through. Next, during the phallic stage, the Oedipus complex, we've heard of this before. The Oedipus complex can arise with boys. Boys have this quote-unquote supposedly intense desire to replace their father and enjoy the affections of their mother. So you hear a lot, he's a mama's boy and all that type of stuff. It's not saying that boys want to have sex with their mother. It's just saying that you want to replace the attention and affections. You want your mom to be giving you attention and affection, giving you hugs and that type of stuff, and you don't want your father around. However, this can lead to castration anxiety. Castration anxiety is the boy's intense fear of being mutilated by the father, because you want the father out so you can get the affection from your mom. You're afraid that by pushing your dad out that he may castrate you or mutilate you in some form. So it can potentially lead to castration anxiety. The development of the superego with regard to this: the boy identifies with his father and adopts male gender role to reduce the conflict. So now the superego, remember what that is there, and the boy's like, okay, to balance this out, I'm going to bond with my dad. This will reduce the conflict that you're going through. Without experience of castration anxiety, girls cannot develop superego like boys, because obviously you're not going to be dealing with this castration anxiety. But this is a theory. It's not always fact. The next stage of development, latency period. This is from 6 years to puberty. You set aside all interest in sexuality. No real development psychosexually. And then you get into the genital stage from adolescence to adulthood. This is a sexual reawakening. The source of sexual pleasure shifts to someone outside the family. This is when you start having all of your attentions go to someone else, male, female, whomever, and obviously they're not in the family. Slide 14, fixation This is when a particular psychosexual stage colors an individual's adult personality. For example, someone who is anal retentive, we know what an anal retentive person is, may have been fixated at the anal stage, may have had spent extra time going through that anal stage, going through potty training and on all that type of stuff. So these are just theories, okay, not necessarily facts here. So, but let's go through some examples that we have here with regard to fixations and stuff. So the oral stage, adult extensions or fixations of this, someone who smokes, well, obviously we eat, but this involves smoking, eating, kissing, oral hygiene, drinking, chewing gum, etc. The sublimation, seeking knowledge, humor, wit, sarcasm, being a food or wine expert. Reaction formations could be being a speech purist, a food faddist, a prohibitionist, or possibly the dislike of milk. Anal stage, which we mentioned on the previous slide, notable interest in one's bowel movements, love of bathroom humor, extreme messiness. Sublimations, interest in painting or sculpture, being overly giving, great interest in statistics. Reaction formations, extreme disgust with feces, fear of dirt, prudishness, irritability. And then the phallic stage, heavy reliance on masturbation, flirtatiousness, expressions of virility. Sublimations, interest in poetry, love of love, interest in acting, striving for success. And then reaction formations, puritanical attitude towards sex, excessive modesty. All right, critics and revisionists of the psychosexual stages. As I said, there are always critics. They say sexuality not pervasive force behind the personality. The Oedipus complex is not universal. We obviously know that that's not with the women, females, but it is not universal amongst men. The first 5 years are not as powerful in shaping adult personality as Freud says. The ego and conscious thought are more dominant than what Freud says, which Freud says it is very dominant. And socio-cultural factors are more important than Freud actually believed. Okay, this is what the critics are saying. Hornet's socio-cultural approach. Sociocultural influences on personality development. Both sexes envy attributes of the other. You should know that. Both sexes envy attributes of the other. Women are envious of status bestowed upon men. Men are envious of the reproductive capabilities of women. This is basically what her theory is. Need for security, not sex, is a prime motive or motivator. Okay, the need for security is a prime motivator and not sex. This is what Hornet says. Jung's analytic theory says that we have a collective unconscious, an impersonal, deepest layer of the unconscious mind, that we have this collective unconscious. I don't know if you've ever seen Star Trek Next Generation with the Borgs, and they have this collective where you're taking information from all these different types of people. So this is what that is. It's collective unconscious, where you have all this information from all different areas, and it's in your unconscious mind that you're not fully aware of this. We have archetypes. These are emotional laden ideas having symbolic meaning. We all have an anima, which is a feminine side. We all have an animus, which is a masculine side. Now you may be more dominant, showing a feminine side or a masculine side, but we have both sides. And then we have a persona, which is the, as you see in there, quote unquote, the public mask we wear during social situations. So you may be a whatever, quiet, shy type of person, but when you're in a certain environment, you put on this persona that you are outgoing and extroverted and that type of stuff. You may put on a different persona with regard to lots of different things. It's the way that you act in certain social situations that's not typically who you are. Okay. Adler's individual psychology. Adler says that people are motivated by purposes and goals, having a purpose in life and having goals. Perfection, not pleasure, is the key motivator, the strive for perfection. And then compensation, an attempt to overcome inferiorities by developing our abilities. So we want to develop and improve ourselves to overcome the inferiorities that we have. Adler says that the birth order could influence the success of striving for superiority. We've all heard about the differences with birth order, the first child down to the last child, and the differences there. Adler believes that that has an important function. Psychodynamic perspectives. Personality determined by current and early life experiences. So the way that you've were raised, or the experiences that you had during childhood and currently now. So they kind of combined. It's not just what happened when you were young, but it's a combination of today and the past. Examining personality as a series of stages. Mental transformation of experiences for meaning. So you're using your mind and your thought process to transform these experiences that you've had in the past to develop some sort of meaning. And the unconscious motives lie behind some of our puzzling behavior. Okay, he's just saying some. That should probably be bolded there or whatever, but he's not giving the, like Freud had a lot of our unconscious motives being important as a major factor. Here, just saying it's some of our puzzling behavior. Inner world conflicts with our outer demands of reality create anxiety. So what's being created on the outside, what's demanded on the outside, combined with what was going on inside of ourselves, that can create anxiety. Potentially, not always, right? Personality and adjustment as topics for psychological inquiry. Criticisms. Well, too much faith in the unconscious mind, too much importance on sexuality, and cannot be tested empirically. None of this is dealing with the psychodynamic, right? Saying that too much is on the unconscious, and as you saw, as we said here, going back one, Adler did not deal with the unconscious. So having the criticisms here, too much importance on the sexuality, and we can't test this. None of this is, like I said, this is a theory. We can't test what's going on subconsciously in our mind, right? Impossible. Some contributions with the psychodynamic perspectives. Childhood as crucial to later functioning. Okay, experiences we have during our childhood are crucial and critical to how we function later on. Development is understood in terms of stages, and we do go through certain stages. They may not be fixed at the same exact ages that were listed there, but they're, rough ideas. And the unconscious processes playing a significant role. So our unconscious mind does play a role, but to the extent that Freud says and some of the psychodynamic people, it's not quite that extensive.